Have you ever struggled with the fact that nobody gets you, or maybe at least you feel that way? Nobody gets you as an artist at your church or in your faith community? Well, listen, that's very common, and I'm going to hit it head on today right here on 5 Minute Mentoring. Have you ever wanted to have someone in your life who you could ask real questions about your art, your business, and even your walk with the Lord? Well, that's exactly what we do every Friday here on 5 Minute Mentoring, where I answer one question from one of my awesome podcast listeners in order to help you start really thriving as the artist you know God created you to be. Well, hey there, and happy Friday. Welcome to another episode of 5 Minute Mentoring. I'm really glad that you're here with me. And listen, as you heard in the intro, we've all been there. We've all been, if you've been an artist for any length of time, you've been in the situation, maybe in your church or at a retreat or a conference or something like that, or just around people in general who are not artists, but who are believers. And you're just like, they do not get me. They do not understand who I'm at all. And what do I do with that? So I'm going to jump into that today on the podcast and hopefully give you some suggestions to walk through that. But first of all, I want to give a big shout out to one of my awesome podcast listeners. Listen, I love it that you guys are leaving so many reviews and all of that on iTunes. It really is a huge blessing to me. And this shout out is for Felicia Bush. She said, this podcast series is a taste of that abundant life promised to the Christian who walks with the Lord. And she said, I became a member of Matt's Created to Thrive artist mentoring program last month. Awesome. She said, I've already been refocused and reinvigorated as a studio artist after 17 years of being an art educator, pouring myself into creative lives of others. Now it's my turn. Matt Tommey, his community of artists, and his amazing resources, this podcast included, were a gift from God helping me in this transition, this new season. Matt is articulate, able, and anointed for this. Well, Felicia, listen, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for taking the time to write that. It really means the world to me, and for all you guys that leave reviews on there. It lets others know that the podcast is a blessing to you. And for me here sitting behind my microphone in the studio, wondering sometimes, is anybody listening? I know you are. And these reviews really mean a lot. So thank you so much. Listen, if you're a regular listener to the podcast and you've not left a review yet, please take a moment right now on iTunes. You can do it so easy. All you got to do is just give it a 5-star review and type a little review in there. I'll see that, and who knows, maybe you'll be the next person that I'm giving a shout out to right here on the podcast. Well, speaking of shout out, I've got a question from one of my awesome listeners, Rose Schloipen. And Rose, I hope I said that right because that is a heck of a last name. But Schloipen, yes. I always want to say that like I'm from up north. You know, I've got this big southern accent, but I want to say, now next is Rose Schloipen. So, but then I sound like, you know, like I'm from Boston, and I'm not. I'm from South Georgia. So anyway, I digress. Maybe they'll edit this out. I don't know, but Rose has got the question for today. So here's her question.
Hi, Matt. It's Rose Schloipen. I have a question. What if your church is not ready to embrace prophetic art or just the arts in general? They're old-fashioned conservative, very controlling, just wondering what in the world that is when they look at you. And what do you do about that? How do you, I understand you spend time in prayer concerning that, but what if you just really feel you want to follow the Lord's leading in your heart?
Well, Rose, that is a great question. And honestly, so many of us have been there before, being in a faith community of people who love Jesus, but who have no context for creativity, for the arts, and how that, you know, figures into our relationship with the Lord. And absolutely, I get it. I mean, that can be really frustrating. The first thing I would say is this, realize that all of your validation and all of your understanding of who you are, and the validation that you get as an artist does not have to come from your church. And a lot of times people, that's a new concept. They're like, what? I have to do things that people in my church get and understand. But listen, a lot of times they just don't have a context for that. I mean, the larger story of that is in Christianity in general, especially in the West, we don't have a culture of creativity and of art in the context of worship. And so for most people, this is really, really outside the box. That's why my artist mentoring program, our groups on Facebook, the books that I write, things like that, those really become magnets for artists who love Jesus, because they're like, oh my gosh, for the first time, I've found other people who are like me and who get what I do. The big frustration that I see, and I hear it in your voice, Rose, and it's absolutely understandable. The big frustration I see is that, wow, I'm an artist and these are people that I love, but they just don't get me. And that makes me feel like I'm doing something wrong, or I'm less than, or I'm not measuring up to their standards or whatever. And listen, I get this. That's an absolutely natural response. What I want to encourage you to do is not expect your faith community, your church, all right, to be everything that you need in your life. All right. Does that mean that you check out a church? No. We all need to be involved in a vibrant local church that loves us, that supports us, that encourages us to be who God's called us to be. But they can't be everything. They're not going to be your buyers, all right? They're not going to be your mentors in this area. They're probably not going to know exactly how to encourage you, all right? So in this area, it's really going to be up to you to find encouragement in your life, community in your life of other believers that are artists who can give you the support that you need. The artist mentoring program that I have called Created to Thrive, which you can find out about here in the show notes and on my website, that's really the main focus of that group is, number one, community, helping you learn and grow in the context of a loving community of people who love Jesus, love each other, want to walk with each other as we grow to develop our art, renew our minds, grow our businesses, and really cultivate a life that honors the Lord through our creativity. That's why I started that. So groups like that, opportunities like that, retreats, conferences, things like that, those are going to be real staples in your life. The other thing that I would say, and maybe this is a question you've thought about or not thought about, but it was interesting how you kind of framed the question. You're like, well, they're controlling. They don't understand this. They don't understand that. They're very conservative. They push away new ideas. My question would be to you, why are you there? Now, you may say, well, I've always gone to church there. And again, I'm not trying to get in your business, but you asked the question, so I'm going to give you the answer. And my question back to you would be, is this community no longer a community that is one that you can authentically connect with? And there are times and seasons for everything. Just because you've gone to a church for 10, 20 years or whatever, 5 years, doesn't mean that that's the one that you're going to be in forever. We all evolve. We grow in the Lord. We move on. We need different things. Some communities offer different things than others, all right? Just because you've been in a church forever doesn't mean that that's the church you have to be in. And I always encourage people, as you're trying to find a church to connect with, number one, don't put all that weight on them, like I said at the beginning, making them, try to be everything that you need in your life. They cannot be that. All right. Nobody can be that for you except Jesus. But at the same time, realize that you may need to find another community, a community that embraces the arts, a community that understands a larger vision of what it means to operate in your gifting in the kingdom of God. And so within those two answers there, I hope you'll find a balance of, number one, finding a community of artists that can walk with you and that you can walk with them to both receive and give. And at the same time, being able to embrace perhaps a new community of people that maybe won't necessarily be artists per se, but that really can support you in your journey. See, whatever you do, and I would just say this to anybody, if you're going to a church just because you've been there and it's an old crusty church that doesn't want to change and doesn't want to, be a part of what God's doing now, that's just doing the same old thing for the same old amount of years and don't want anything new, don't want the move of the Spirit, and you're wanting those things, then I would just say, listen, take it to the Lord, but realize you're a grown person. You're a grown woman. I'm a grown man. You can absolutely ask the Lord, what's the next step? And maybe he'll lead you into a new season, into a new body, or maybe he'll use you as an agent of revival and restoration and change and new life within that body. All right. The main thing is, I would say in a situation like that, don't take your identity from what they say or don't say about you. You got to have that established in the Lord. And you do what you need to do to build the support network that you need in your life to be everything that God's called you to be. Again, that's why we're doing everything we do here. That's why I do the podcast, Facebook groups, a mentoring program, our courses. All of that is designed to not only help you learn, but also connect you with other artists around the world who love Jesus and want to be the artist that God's called them to be. All right. Rose, thanks really a lot for your question. It means a lot to me. And listen, if you've got a question, you're listening today, you're like, wow, I would love Matt to answer one of my questions. You can do that by going to matttommeymentoring.com/podcast. There's a little link right there that says record a message, and you can do that right off of your phone, your iPad, your laptop, whatever. It'll shoot us an email with your voice message, and who knows, maybe you'll be the next question that I answer right here on the podcast. All right. Hey, I love you very much. Thanks so much for listening. Share it with a friend. Like I said earlier, please take a moment and review the podcast. It really means a lot to me. And I'll see you next time here on 5 Minute Mentoring. All right. Bye.